Just finished my forecast and want to give you a short, crystal clear overview before we begin. The month of July starts off a lot more sensitive and intuitive and inward. And then as we move into Leo season, from Cancer season, we have more external, outward, passionate, expressive energy. So we're moving from basically lunar energy, which is very receptive, to solar energy, which is very expressive and shining. But more than that, we have a lot of planetary tension in the sky this month that starts after July 5th and builds to the end of the month to where things are very tense. So there's a lot of potential for positive growth and movement, but we do have a mixed bag. Some things are easy, some things are chafing. We're all going to progress no matter what we've got going on. And things are going to go great as long as you're linked in with your own heart, connected to love in whatever form that works through your life. So without further ado, here is my longer, more in-depth forecast for July. Hello and welcome to your Sacred Starlight Astrology forecast for July of 2022. My name is Rebekah and we're going to go over these transits in depth. I missed last month's forecast because a lot happened in June and I moved and I'm back in LA now and doing all kinds of things. Let's ground ourselves with a couple quick reminders about astrology forecasts before we begin. What do you want to do with this energy? Because you do have a choice. We all have a choice. I believe in the openness of everything. And we're looking at the weather and how we can surf with it. So don't allow anything I say in this reading to limit you in any way. Don't give your power away to someone's forecast. Use this forecast to empower you, because this is showing the conditions and the themes we're working with, but not an outcome. And just use it to fit it into whatever your belief system is already. And trust yourself and trust the divine. Check out some different astrologers. Also, always recommend looking through multiple lenses. So this is just my lens. If you want a one-on-one reading, you can book with me. General forecast for everybody for the month of July. We're starting off the month, let's ground us into Cancer season. So while there's a lot of different planets in the sky in different places, I find I often forget to focus on the sun sometimes. And the sun is kind of a big deal. So when we say we're in Cancer season, that's because the sun is moving through Cancer. So a lot of this forecast, I'm going to start talking about all these other planets and all these other signs, but we want to ground ourselves into what season we're in. The sun, which our entire solar system pivots around, even though in tropical Western astrology, we're like looking at it as if the sun is moving around the earth. But the sun is in Cancer. There's an interesting splay in the sky this month. There are planets in a lot of different places and a lot of different signs. So this means that wherever the moon is, you're kind of getting some support and some chafing, or a lot of the time. It's kind of a mixed bag. So there's a balance between, support and ease and maybe some growth that doesn't come through being comfortable. And this isn't always the case. In recent years, we've had so many pileups of outer planets in the same place that usually it's like we'd have a brutal passage through like one or two signs, and then like things would be easier or there'd be some reprieve through other places in the sky. But we really do have a lot going in a lot of different places right now. Cancer is the sign of the crab. The ruler of Cancer is the moon. And it is a water sign, a cardinal water sign. So Cancer is known for themes of domesticity and mothering and nurturing and nourishing and sensitivity. So being able to sense things in a heightened sort of way, being a water sign, it's very, there's a lot of information being received and transmitted, but it's not always like through the intellect or through words, right? It's known as one of the mute signs. A lot of deep feeling, a lot of connecting and wanting to kind of be secure and protect and nurture and nourish. Wherever Cancer is in your chart, whatever sign that's in, it might not be around home and roots for everybody, but there are home and roots themes just within that sort of the nature of the Cancer sign. We do have, we'll have some other planets moving through the sign of Cancer, but right now it's just the sun as of the beginning of the month. Feelings and emotions may be heightened, and also because the moon rules over Cancer, like the moon is always important. Wherever the moon is always going to be something that I focus on, but it's like extra. And because the moon moves so quickly, changing signs every 2.5-ish days on average, that's why Cancers, or the sign of Cancer, the archetype of Cancer, gets a rap for being a little moody, because it's shifting and changing and definitely feeling a lot of things. And so also that symbolism of the crab. The crab is hard on the outside, but soft on the inside. And with it being a cardinal sign wanting to initiate, it's bringing in the season of summer, but crabs move sideways. So they do their bidding sort of maybe sometimes in a roundabout way, rather than going in direct for it, like in Aries, but still like really wanting to create a secure and safe place to nurture and nourish and protect and preserve and mother what's important. So some great questions for Cancer season, just really generally, before I get into like an insane amount of minutia that I'm going to cover in this forecast. But you can always ask what you're feeling. Just paying attention to what you're feeling, honoring whatever you're sensing and picking up. Cancer is a very sensitive sign, but it also senses information and transmits information in nonverbal ways. So honoring emotions as they move through you, and respecting and honoring the information that you're receiving through nonverbal and non-intellectual, non-mental modes of communication, because that's still very powerful communication. And also, it's a good time to ask ourselves what needs to be nourished and nurtured within us and in our lives, and what could thrive, what could grow and thrive within us and in our lives if we did give it that nourishing and nurturing and protective energy. What would thrive if we mother it? So this is anchoring in Cancer season. The sun in Cancer, we've just ingressed into the summer. So this is the beginning of the summer season. And soon we'll be having some other planets move through Cancer, but right now it's just the sun that's there. But that also means there's a lot of other planets in, other signs, giving us other, sort of diverse energy. On the very first of the month, July 1st, Mercury, which is the planet of moving around and of communications and words and thinking and commerce and travel and tech and things like that. This planet is in one of its very strong signs, Gemini, which is an air sign. So it's very intellectual, very mental, very light, and very zippy. It's very strong here. So, it's not just about the feeling Cancerian watery energy. Venus and Mercury are both in the sign of Gemini. So with Mercury here on the 1st of July is going to trine Saturn at 23 degrees of Aquarius. Aquarius is also an air sign. A trine is a supportive aspect. So essentially what this means is that Mercury having to do with communications and anything that the Gemini house in your chart rules, like whatever area, if that's your 3rd house, your 6th house, your 10th house, whatever, there could be a lot of activity at this time that's like positive forward movement. And then with that trine from Saturn, that really grounds things in. And so it's not just like fast, zippy movement that burns out. Whatever is initiated at this time with Mercury and Saturn coming together has the ability to go the distance, be rooted. It has some gravity, and it can be an important foundation for long-term endeavors or whatever it is, something that is sustainable throughout the future and can support future you. Or future endeavors, current endeavors well into the future. So that's pretty powerful. We really like that. And we want to take advantage because both of these two planets, Saturn is retrograde right now, but Saturn is retrograde just about half the year. All these outer planets that move really slow are retrograde all the time. So you don't really need to worry about that. But I would say Saturn is also very strong in the sign of Aquarius. It's his diurnal domicile. So we have an uber strong Saturn and an uber strong Mercury in trine on the 1st of July. And it's a nice energy for solidifying something and having it, be a nice foundation, especially around communications or trade or commerce or anything like that. I also really like this day because the moon is in Leo, which is also making kind of a nice aspect to some more of this energy. So at this time also Mars in Aries, which is another planet that's really strong in its home sign. That's the warrior planet in the sign it's completely resourced to just plow forward and kick ass. And it's kind of been squaring off with Pluto at around this time. So there can be some power struggles and definitely an edge to wanting to move forward. However, there is a lot of energy there. If you can invoke some grace to move through this harsh aspect with Pluto, there's a lot of fuel to move us forward in powerful ways that can sustain us long term. So this Mars is sextile Saturn. It's also sextile Mercury. So that's a supportive aspect as well. The square to Pluto, like I said, that's a chafe. And I think that actually perfects it's the end of June, basically the beginning of July. So I think it's July 1st is the day that it perfects. That's what I'm looking at now. You can tell I'm a little spaced out today. I did all 3 pages of notes a week ago for this. And now I'm I'm tired. All right. So this Mars-Pluto square, you'll hear a bunch of astrologers talking about this. I know I'm only on the 1st of July, but this is a square that you may have felt building up through the end of June. And it can be some sort of a conflict or a power struggle sort of energy. Like I said, it certainly has an edge. However, it's still, because Mars is so powerful in Aries, it is going to maybe get a little bit of an ego check for sure, or a lot of one from Pluto. But this edge can be navigated with grace. It's supported by Saturn. It's supported by Mercury. So I still see this as powerful forward movement that can last and go in a positive direction. You just want to invoke grace and always take the high road, because that's life. There never is a perfect sky. I'm passionate about electional astrology, surfing, cosmic surfing, always looking for a sky that's amazing where there's nothing wrong. And I haven't found one yet. You find the 9 things that are all lined up perfectly, and I'll be that 10th thing that's just, a thorn in the side. And that's because it seems to just be how life is. We get the most out of growth through challenges that push us out of our comfort zones. So yes, I know I do have a tendency to put a really positive spin on everything. However, there's so much support here. So people will be talking about this Mars-Pluto square through the end of June, through the beginning of July. But remember, all of these planets, minus Pluto, are in their own, Mars is in its own domicile. It's very powerful. So it wants to get things done, and it can. It's supported by Mercury in Gemini in its own domicile, and supported by Saturn in Aquarius in its own domicile. And so there's a lot that can move forward in very constructive ways if you breathe and invoke wisdom and grace. Okay. So that's only July 1st. And I like this moon in Leo here too. I can't believe I didn't write this down. What is I on? Okay, something else that's worth mentioning around what I just said about this Mars-Pluto square too. So Mars is going to be really frustrated for most of the rest of this year. And that's because it's going to move into Taurus on the 5th of July, where it loses dignity. So it is definitely not as well resourced in the sign of Taurus to do what it wants to do. You're putting the warrior maybe in a nice garden or on a lush farm. So things move a lot more slow in the sign of Taurus. Mars doesn't like that. It doesn't mean there's no productivity, but it's just a more frustrating, it's a loss in dignity is how they say it in traditional astrology. And there's some other factors that make that more challenging too, because the fixed signs right now have a lot of chafing. So I'll explain that a little bit better. But basically these last few days before Mars moves into Taurus, so anything before July 5th, there is tension, but there's progress, and I recommend taking action. because after that, we've got Mars in Taurus, where it's not very well resourced to do what it wants to do. It can be more frustrated. And then it's going to move into Gemini, where it will be for 7 months and where it will go through a retrograde period from October 30th to January 12th. And that period is ripe for frustration as well. It doesn't mean no progress can happen during this time, but it's just something to take note of. Mars retrogrades are the least common of all the retrogrades. They only happen about once every 2 years. And we really feel them. Mars is what's called a personal planet. It is very connected to our vital energy and our vitality, our motivation, and our just get up and go and like ability. Mars is the charge. So Mars in Aries is very well resourced to get after what it wants to get after and to see a lot of progress. And so, yeah, just taking advantage of that, even though there's some tension, there's some lovely support. I know I've been going on and on about this, but it's just a lot to unpack. So we also have a beautiful moon in Leo on July 1st. It's trine Jupiter in Aries. It's gonna, over the next few days, it's gonna be like making nice supportive aspects to a lot of planets and also get some chafing from Uranus and Saturn. So this moon in Leo, which is basically July 1st, July 2nd, that is a mixed bag. There's some really amazing energy there where it's connecting with planets that support it and bolster it up, and it can be so much fun. It might feel extra playful, but there can also be some tension and some restriction there because it will square off with Uranus and face a smackdown in opposition with Saturn later in July 2nd, especially into like the late afternoon, evening, Pacific time, Eastern time on July 2nd. So I'm actually going to be focusing a lot more on the moon, I think, in weekly forecasts. I'm trying to keep this brief. It's just not going to happen. Let's be honest with ourselves. I always over prepare and then we just trim the fat as we go, as we learn how to do that. This last, first few days of July, it's not just Mars that's going to lose dignity. Mercury is very, very strong in Gemini, as I said, and it will be also on the same, Mars and Mercury move on the same day. They both move on July 5th into the next sign in the queue, and they both lose dignity. So they're moving into new signs. It's not bad. They're just not as well resourced. It's not as easy for them to do the things they want to do. Mercury has a lot easier of a time communicating in Gemini, where it can use words and ideas, and it's very zippy, and it's a little different style of communication when it moves into the sign of Cancer. Still very powerful, but maybe you have to get a bit more creative to do that. So we have both Mars entering Taurus, a loss of dignity, and Mercury entering Cancer, which is not really as bad, quote unquote, as Mars and Taurus, maybe not as frustrated, but definitely still a loss in dignity. Mars in particular is actually considered in the sign of its fall in Taurus. So it's like extra frustrated. Mercury's not like bad in Cancer. It's just not in its sign of strength. So that's a really palpable energetic shift. And we may feel a slowdown because before that we've had Mars in Aries, which is a lot of fire. It's very bright. It's very light. It's very fast. Mercury in Gemini is air, and Mercury is very fast when it's unimpeded and it's in a sign like that. And air feeds fire. We've had all of these planets in fire and air. So with Mars moving into Taurus, which is Earth and fixed Earth, like dense, sturdy, not going anywhere Earth, and then Mercury moving into Cancer, which is water. Those two planets are still playing nicely with each other. They form a supportive sextile together, but the way they're expressing themselves, the way Mars is going to be moving forward and the way Mercury is going to be communicating, giving and receiving information is very different. Much more embodied, much more intuitive, much less intellectualized, much less verbal, and much less fast. So this is where we're starting to get more Cancer energy happening. And Venus is still in Gemini at this time, so it's not like there's no Gemini energy. People are still flirty. They're still out. They're still having fun. Jupiter is in Aries. That's like fiery and great and passionate. And so there's still, like, we have the fire, we got the air, we got the earth, we've got the water, we've got lots of stuff. That's why I said earlier in this forecast, it really is a mixed bag. But we're going more into Cancer energy after the 4th of July. So July 5th, we've got both the Sun and Mercury in Cancer. I wanted to mention July 7th, I have highlighted here. We have the moon moving into Scorpio. And the moon is not comfortable in the sign of Scorpio. It's another placement where where a planet, the moon, is said to be in fall. So Scorpio is the underworld, and it's very powerful because we have to embrace all of life. We have to embrace the shadows to be able to really get to unconditional love. We have to love everything about life, and we have to look at what's really there, the full spectrum of human experience. And walking through the shadows, we come out the other side. But it's not the most comfortable journey. So the moon already not very comfortable in the sign of Scorpio, and then there are several other factors that make this maybe a slightly more challenging. The weather is just a little edgier during these days. We have the South Node there, which is a point where we're kind of releasing old ways of feeling, thinking, doing things, being, usually not necessarily by choice, but we're just purging. And we have, anytime we have planets or the moon moving through the fixed signs at this point, they're getting chafed by some planets that aren't the easiest. So Saturn is our friend, but doesn't feel like that a lot of the time because Saturn can feel like boundaries, reality checks, limitations. Any planet that's moving through a fixed sign is getting a challenging aspect or a boundary or running up against some sort of a limitation from Saturn. Now with Mars in the sign of Taurus, which is also a fixed sign, any planet moving through any fixed sign is going to be getting a challenging or harsh aspect also from Mars. So the fixed signs, which are Leo, Scorpio, Aquarius, and Taurus, any planets moving through there at this point, there's a lot more rubbing and chafing. And again, it doesn't mean bad things are going to happen, but it's just not this easy breezy flow. We can still progress and move forward, but we're a little bit more out of our comfort zone, and we have to invoke our best qualities to really get the most out of things, and a little elbow grease. So the moon on July 7th, 8th, and 9th is in its fall in Scorpio, opposing Mars, will square and opposing Uranus. So there could be some surprises. This is also an eclipse point. So the eclipse on the lunar eclipse on May 15th really activated this point. So we may see some residual themes from whatever happened in your life at that time popping up. The moon's going over the South Node and then going to square Saturn. So in my notes, I wrote, woof. Just not the most fun day. However, the Scorpio moon does, it's going to trine the sun and Mercury. It's not without any support. It is a little bit of a couple days where there's just a passage, right? And so this is the end of that week. It's a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, July 7th, 8th, and 9th. Just breathe and go easy on yourself and other people. And if you can line up some things that just make you feel good, safe, and supported, that's a really nice thing to do. But don't stress about it. It might not be that big a deal for you. If you have a lot of planets in fixed signs, you may feel this a little bit more. July 9th, Mercury has its morning set. Mercury here at 9 degrees of Cancer. Yeah, starting to get so close to the sun that it disappears the sun. And when any planet gets really close to the sun, it's kind of considered an affliction. It's temporary, but it's kind of burned up in the light of the sun. You can't see it. The light of the sun is so bright that planet literally disappears from view. So one of my teachers, Nina Griffin, her take on this when a planet goes under the beams is always there's some behind the scenes stuff going on with that planet. And then when it comes out a few weeks later, things kind of move forward a little bit more. So we'll see. Not really sure what this could be because I don't follow all the politics, but you can check out Nina's forecast for a little bit more details on what's happening in the mundane astrology. But anything that involves Mercury in your chart, the houses that Mercury rules, Mercury is communication, travel. This isn't a retrograde energy necessarily, but it's really close to the sun. So maybe there's just some stuff that's not quite as clear, but it will clear up as we go. So after that passage through Scorpio, where the moon was in Scorpio from 7th, 8th, and 9th, on July 10th, the Sunday, it's like a palpable relief. The moon moves into Sagittarius, which is a much lighter, brighter, more open, more flowing. It's like a mutable fire sign. There's room to breathe. We're exploring. We're sort of jubilant. We're more open. There's a much more of an openness. And in addition to that, it's making some nice connections with some of the other planets. It's making a trine to Jupiter, which is like really, that's a feel-good transit. It's going to oppose Venus in Gemini. So there could be like a lot of social energy also popping. Things could just be bright and bubbly, buoyant. There's more optimism and hope. You might be out socializing, doing lots of different things with different people. The energy could be like a little all over the place, but that's not necessarily a bad thing, right? So that's just that couple of days. Okay. On July 12th, which is a Tuesday here, we have Venus trining Saturn retrograde. So this is what I was saying earlier. At the beginning of this forecast, we had Mercury trining Saturn. This time now we have Venus at the same degree trining Saturn. It should also square Neptune, so everything might not be that clear. It's not super crystal clear, but that's okay. We are able to really move forward nicely here with matters of like human connection, relations, love, creativity, financial. Like Venus has a lot of abundance and joy significations too. So when you bring Saturn in, it's generally some sort of commitment aspect. It doesn't have to be in a relationship, although certainly it could be. But it could be any sort of project or work related or creative thing, but it just brings some kind of grounding, and it's like, it anchors it in a nice supportive way. So it's like whatever you're trying to do, you're putting some nice roots down to do that. So that's on Tuesday, July 12th. Whatever is moving forward right now can have some gravity, commitment, nice foundations to go the distance. Wednesday, the 13th, we're having a full moon in Capricorn, which does go exact July 13th. At 2:37 p.m. I think that's Eastern here, and it's at 21 degrees Capricorn. So on Tuesday, we're already going to be starting to feel that because the moon goes into Capricorn. It just doesn't become full until the 13th. So Tuesday, Wednesday, there's like a real buildup. So full moons, just in general, are a lot of energy. It's something is culminating. The moon is at peak. So people feel that whatever is happening, it's more of it. It just becomes extra. So people feel their feelings more, whether those feelings are easy feelings or hard feelings. They're much more sensitive. I'm saying if you're going to host a party, it's always great to have it on a full moon. People come out, there's just a lot of people have more energy. Just a quick interjection because I'm editing this video and realizing that I really didn't emphasize this Moon-Pluto conjunction nearly as much as I should have. So this full moon in Capricorn is conjunct Pluto within like 6 to 7 degrees. So that's not super tight, but it is though. It definitely is. Pluto is a very intense planet, and you feel Pluto's influence with a wide orb. This moon being really sensitive because the Sun and Mercury are in Cancer. It's a full moon in Capricorn, but it's very sensitive. So this is very intense. I actually like this lunation quite a lot. There are a lot of positive things, which I'm about to tell you about in the video, but let's just talk about Pluto. So Pluto as an archetype is the phoenix, but it is the planet of death and transformation and rebirth. And the themes around Pluto are very much around power. With Pluto, whatever dies or is lost is usually something that you're like, no, take anything but that. Because it's something that you're associating with your power. And then once you lose it, you're forced to find that power within you or within the divine, or, you know, but really within you. It's that archetypal Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz journey. I always like to say, like, you had the power all along, my dear. You just had to discover it for yourself, usually by losing all of these other things that we associated with our power. Was the only way we were going to discover that. So this full moon might not be that dramatic for many of us, but this is the Pluto archetype. So power dynamics, power struggles often come up when Pluto is involved. This is sort of nicely configured. Now the moon literally is conjunct. The full moon is like merged with the archetype of Pluto during this lunation. And a conjunction, it could go any way, but I see this as potential for really positive empowerment, like someone claiming their power in a very practical and grounded way because of what else I'm about to talk about. There's a lot of nice aspects for this moon and supportive aspects of this moon from Mars, other things like that, which also has power significations. So it could be like an opportunity to claim our power in a really productive, wise way if we invoke wisdom. What I've often seen, especially over the last few years, people that have their natal moon at around the degree that Pluto's been transiting the last few years, like when Pluto conjoined their moon, they didn't like fall apart or have terrible things happen to them. A lot of them like really stepped into their power and had some like stepped up and kind of was like, it's like can be like boss bitch energy actually. But if any power dynamics come up during this full moon and sensitivity, because Pluto is very intense and it is very transformative and alchemizing, like whatever is lost, something will be replaced with something better and more true and more authentic, like more authentic power, not false power. But yeah, just lean on your friends, lean on love, and lean on whatever spiritual or whatever life resources you like to work with to help you work through your stuff, because that's different for all of us. But yeah, themes of power. There's always ways to work with power dynamics with wisdom. And it's also totally okay to ask for help from friends or from the divine. So that's my 2 cents interjected here. But pay attention to Pluto. Any feelings of darkness or intensity or deep sort of like darkness as in stuff that's typically below the surface, that's not discussed, that hasn't come up. Like some stuff may come up to be really seen and claimed and addressed and worked through in a concrete way in the world during this lunation. But it's I think largely a very positive one. And this full moon can be so productive. The moon doesn't really love being in Capricorn. She's also considered to be in detriment here, but she has a lot of supportive aspects from other planets, and that really matters. It's not just like what sign is the moon, and it's like, how is the moon in conversation with the other planets? Is she being picked on? Is she being hyped up? Is she being supported? And so this moon has got a lot of supportive aspects. This moon is going to trine Mars, trine Uranus, trine the North Node. It's going to pass over Pluto, which is quite powerful. So with that trine to all of those planets that I just mentioned in the sign of Taurus, and Capricorn is an earth sign as well. Even though we're feeling sensitive and we're in Cancer season and we're much more about like sensitivity, home, nurturing, nourishing feelings, this Capricorn energy is often very much about productivity and work and like it's practical. It's like what's happening in the world, what needs to get done? Can I get some stuff done that's going to serve me long term? And actually the answer under this full moon is yeah, you really can. The Mars there, even though Mars is a little frustrated in Taurus, it's in a supportive aspect to this moon. It's not like super chafed with Saturn yet. It's just, this is good. You could have a lot of energy to get some really great stuff done under this lunation. Jupiter will square the moon. That kind of amplifies things. So you could be extra driven to get stuff done. And you could really be successful in moving a lot of stuff forward. So yeah, this moon in Capricorn is kind of largely out of harm's way. Saturn is not picking on her. It is a sensitive moon though, because we do have the sun in Cancer and Mercury in Cancer. So we may be feeling a lot of stuff, but there's a lot you can do with it. And that next day, Wednesday, July 13th, we have Venus squaring Neptune, right? So Neptune is hilarious, like, to me, because its significations are making things not that clear. It's about the higher realms. So it's not like very concerned with reality or grounded into like physical stuff or being able to clarify things. It's like the antithesis of that. It's about oneness, and it just dissolves everything into like this mist of love and divine energy. But that can be problematic when there's like a harsh aspect, like a square. It just means that you might be out of touch with reality, right? These aspects with Venus squaring Neptune is like a 1 or 2 day aspect. It's very fast, so it's nothing that you need to really stress about, but just also being aware of maybe a tendency, especially on the 13th, to over-romanticize something, or just knowing that you might not have the full picture on something, but that's okay. I think there's that trine from Saturn is supportive and grounds things into reality as well. So it's just worth mentioning. If you have a lot of mutable energy in your chart, so that would be Pisces energy, Gemini energy, Virgo energy, or Sagittarius energy. If you've got like, any of your sun, moon, rising, or any of your planets there, this is just one to, Neptune's been working on you for a while. Things can feel a little harder to pin down, but this is a sort of a quick aspect that's not that big a deal, if you ask me. Kind of depends, but mostly I would say not to worry about it too much. The moon still in Capricorn and still with this full moon energy, the moon does go right over Pluto at 8:30 p.m. Pacific, so really late Eastern time. And that's just an extra empowering aspect. So just worth noting. That's powerful. July 14th. Thursday, July 14th. So we have the moon now moving into Aquarius. It's early Thursday morning on the 14th. Aquarius is a Saturn-ruled sign. Saturn is our friend, but Saturn is more about work and sustainable foundations that can support future you. So Saturn does love you, but Saturn is not going to let you get away with any crap. So it's not very much fun. It's not like an immediate gratification party energy. Moon in Aquarius is very much in a Saturn-ruled sign, but Saturn is also there at this time. So those couple days can feel more serious, a little bit more about work, a little bit more like of a slog, potentially. And even though there is some support from Jupiter in Aries and, Venus in Gemini, there's still a focus on work and responsibility. And also the moon, every time it goes into a fixed sign, as I said earlier, is coming up against some of the malefic planets, the planets that have harder energy to work with, less fun energy to work with. Saturn. It helps us, but it's not very much fun. The moon will conjoin Saturn. Mars helps us move forward, but sometimes it really stings. So when we have the moon in Aquarius here, it's going to square Mars in Taurus, and it's going to square Uranus, and it's going to conjoin Saturn in Aquarius. So we have some chafing over these couple of days, actually. It's not without support. Like I said, there are helping planets. It's a mixed bag. So you'll be fine. Well, we're all going to be great. Just be prepared through these couple of days for maybe a few edges, but not anything that we can't work through. Saturday, July 16th, the moon enters Pisces early morning. And again, this brings us some relief. It kind of lightens things up. Some of the pressure goes away. And this is a Saturday as well. So for anybody that's like a Monday to Friday person, usually used to some of that pressure coming off on a Saturday anyway, but this really does kind of bring that as some relief, out of the way of chafing from any harsher planets, making a nice supportive sextile to Mars and Uranus, and a gorgeous trine to the Sun and Mercury in Cancer. So this is very water, very feelings, very intuitive, creativity and romance, love, sensitivity, but in a nice way. This is not a day for reality. This weekend, and the next day, the moon is still going to be there and conjoining Neptune. So it's like this is a great weekend, July 16th and 17th, to kind of be like in fantasy. It's great. We have a Sun-Mercury conjunction exactly on Saturday, July 16th as well. So Mercury is still being burned up in the heart of the Sun, but we do have these periods as astrologers, but I don't actually have that much experience with Cazimis, but there's something called a Cazimi where Mercury is like exactly in the heart of the Sun, and everybody has different orbs, but I like to use a really tight one of only 20 arc minutes. So I actually checked this out. So when Mercury is Cazimi or directly in the heart of the Sun or any planet, but in this case it is Mercury, this is an extra powerful time. So it's good for Mercury. Rather than being burned up in the rays, it's being supported by the Sun just for this brief flash period of time. So what I have here is from 9:33 a.m. Pacific. This Cazimi goes exact at 12:36 Pacific p.m. and it's in orb until around 4:06 p.m. Pacific time on Saturday, July 16th. So any sort of communications, if you have to send a letter or do anything at that point, sending an email, that's a nice period to take advantage of when Mercury is Cazimi. Sunday, July 17th. So this is like the 3 weeks into July. And we have a planetary ingress. Venus moves into Cancer. So we've had Venus in Gemini for just about the last 3-4 weeks. And that is it for the Gemini energy. So now we have 3 planets. We have 3 planets in the sign of Cancer. Ooh, I missed the Mercury-Pluto square. I somehow didn't write that down. But on that Sunday, the 17th, Saturday, the 16th. Okay. This weekend, Sunday, July 17th, we have Mercury opposing Pluto and the Sun as well. So that can also be quite sensitive. Just something to note. This actually period of a couple days, basically through like the 20th of July. We have a couple planets opposing in Cancer, in sensitive Cancer, opposing Pluto. So that can be some sort of power dynamic themes that pop up as well, but it's quick. It may sting, but it's quick. So just honor whatever feelings are coming up, checking out whatever boundaries, what are your feelings telling you? And what can you do with that information to move forward in the best possible way? Okay, Monday, July 18th, so start of this week, we have a moon in Aries. So this is a lot of get up and go energy. Moon in Aries is also not that comfortable because Aries is the sign of the warrior and the moon is very sensitive. It's very intuitive and it just absorbs. It absorbs. It receives and it absorbs and reflects and transmits light. It carries light from one planet to another, and it's very tied to how we feel in our bodies, not just our emotions. And so Moon in Aries generally isn't my favorite. However, it's really like pretty okay for the most part here. We have it coming up against Jupiter, which is something that I like. It will move over Jupiter and Chiron, but it's not being picked on by malefics. It's going to square these Cancer planets. So feelings could be amplified. You could be like really passionate about getting something done. And you could have more of a tendency to overextend yourself actually, or to be a little out of balance with your energy, but that's okay. It's like mostly Jupiter is very, it amplifies things, but Jupiter is a planet that brings grace and lubrication and blessings. So whatever it is you're trying to get done has a lot of cosmic and energetic support for that. Just know that it is a more sensitive time, and there could be a slight tendency to overdoing, but it's all good. Okay, so it could be an intense couple days with the moon in Aries here. I especially like that Monday, July 18th is like you're coming in with the charge because the moon is applying to Jupiter. So you have that extra grace from Jupiter. After that, once the moon is getting into the later degrees, which is Tuesday. So once we get into Tuesday, July 19th, the moon in the later degrees of Aries is like, it's still got a lot of momentum, but you want to take advantage of that Monday. Monday the 18th has more help from Jupiter. So July 19th, we had a couple of other things going on as well. And that's that Tuesday, right? So Mercury enters Leo. So the communication planet enters a fire sign, which is kind of nice in some ways because it's going to have some support from Jupiter, but also it's going to have chafing some from some malefics. So again, just reiterating that mixed bag thing that we have going on. Like there's some woohoo energy, like I'm going to help you out energy, and then other energy that's like chafy. So Mercury enters Leo and Chiron stations retrograde in Aries. So, I mean, for people that have planets at around 16 degrees Aries or 16 degrees of the cardinal signs, you may feel that more, but Chiron is just a sensitive, it's an asteroid that is about the wounded healer. It's actually right on my sun and ascendant right now. So I'm like having this couple years long period where I'm figuring out what that's about. But yeah, that's just something to note for people that are following Chiron. If you have planets at around 16 degrees of Aries, especially, I would say if you're feeling a little sensitive on or around the 19th, that could have something to do with it. It's a good time to seek healing resources. But Mercury going into the sign of Leo, that just amps up a lot of fire. So even though we're still in Cancer season right now, and we have the sun square Pluto this day, so it's like really, this is kind of an intense day actually. So Chiron retrograde on Tuesday the 19th is a bit sensitive. The sun is in an opposition with Pluto today. That's pretty sensitive. And Mercury moves into fiery Leo, where communications may come more from the heart, more from a spirit of unabashed joy, playfulness, generosity. Leo energy gets a bad rap because it is very self-expressive, but that's not always a bad thing. So we have more fire energy in the sky. The moon is still in Aries at this point in time. Tuesday could be a sensitive day. Sun opposing Pluto for sure. And people could be potentially be more prone to say things they wouldn't normally say. Or like be a bit more self-expressive. Mercury's still under the beams of the sun, so it can't be seen. So it's like not necessarily, the self-awareness factor might not be quite as high. More and with Mercury, like, and the moon in Aries, impulsivity is higher. Passion, drive to just get your agenda taken care of, to get done what you want to get done and to get it done fast or to be first. Could be a little higher. Sensitivity, power struggles could be a little higher. And Jupiter could just be amplifying the passion and the energy around all of that. So, and the moon's also squaring the sun. So yeah, actually, this start out to this week is kind of intense. Okay, July 20th. So now we have the moon leaving a fiery sign of Aries, which normally would be like all excited about the moon going into Taurus. And moon in Taurus is, the moon is in the sign of her exaltation in the sign of Taurus. She loves to be in Taurus. She's very embodied, sensual, and generally well supported and happy in the sign of Taurus. However, the fixed signs right now are just, there's so much chafing in the fixed signs. Taurus is fixed earth. It's a fixed sign. So here's the moon in Taurus. It's going to conjoin Mars, which might sting. Then it's going to conjoin Uranus, which might also sting or feel destabilizing. And then it's going to square Saturn, which may feel like some sort of a boundary or limitation or reality check. So what the moon wants to do in Taurus is to feel good. She wants to sleep late. She wants to put on an expensive outfit made of a really luxurious, comfortable, gorgeous fabric. She wants to eat a huge bowl of pasta, drink wine. She just wants to enjoy. It's very bon vivant energy. She wants to be comfortable, and she's not going to probably be that comfortable for these 2.5 days, July 20th, 21st, 22nd, that the moon is in Taurus. Probably not going to be as comfortable as the moon typically would be in Taurus. Now, she's not without support. She is going to make a sextile to Venus and a sextile to the sun throughout this period of time. So, we might be much more, moon in Taurus with the sun and Venus in Cancer. We may be feeling much more like home oriented and just wanting to nest and be comfy and have our comforts at this point in time. And so there will be some support there, but we may be dealing with certain things in life during this period of a couple of days that are not the most comfortable. But it's quick, it moves quickly, so we can get through it. And that's also interesting. At this point, just in generally, this is something I meant to say at the beginning of this forecast, just as an overview, the tension really does build throughout the entire month, because as we have Mars moved into Taurus, as the month progresses, Mars moves further into Taurus and it starts to conjoin Uranus. And by the end of the month, it's squaring Saturn. It's going over the North Node. It's just the further it gets in, the more the mathematical angles of these more challenging planets like Mars, Uranus, Saturn, these are considered kind of malefic planets. They help us, but not in a comfortable way. The tension between these planets is all building. And every time you have, the moon kind of in the mix, you just feel it even more, stuff like that. And so, these planets, as they start to inch into the later degrees of the fixed signs, the tension builds because they're in harsh angle to one another and there are malefic planets involved. So that's why I'm earlier in the month is good to be doing stuff. But life doesn't stop. We do not put our lives on pause and we do not give our power away to a reading. We just use this information like a weather forecast so we know how to navigate the weather that we're having. Because anytime you invoke grace and you invoke love, things are going to move forward nicely for us. That's what I think. Especially the next day, on Thursday, the 21st of July, that's when the moon starts to be going over the malefic planets, specifically by degree. And it's one after another. It's she conjoins Mars, then she conjoins Uranus on the North Node, and then she squares Saturn. So it's she's got to it's like the Goonies when they have to go through all the booby traps. You can make it through. So she has to cross over a frustrated Mars, move over a volatile lightning bolt-esque Uranus. So there could be some surprises, some stinging, and then some boundaries that don't feel necessarily so easy during these days. So she may feel more restricted and a lot less comfortable than she wants to feel. This few days may feel tougher, and if we're dealing with any issues in our life, more likely they may surface at this time to be worked through. But she's moving over the North Node as well in Taurus, so whatever progress is made and wherever life is directing us is a part of a higher divine order of new growth. Even if it's challenging at this time, it won't always be. So take heart that any progress, that whatever the themes that you're dealing with, we are all progressing. Okay. And this is the end of Cancer season. So July 21st is our last day in Cancer. And the very next day, July 22nd, Leo season begins. And I love Leo season. I have a Leo moon. So let's ground ourselves into Leo season. We've already had Mercury move into Leo, so we had a little bit of Leo energy happening, but once the sun moves in, that's, where we're really knowing that we are in Leo season. The sun is there. The sun is what our entire solar system revolves around. And it's a huge thing in astrology. So we'll feel a palpable shift when the sun moves into Leo on July 22nd, which is a Friday. And Leo is fixed fire. So fire is passion, it's inspiration, it's light, it's heat, it's warmth, it's creativity. So Leo rules the heart, and it's about creativity and self-expression. And it does have to do with ego, right? Like there is some of that, but it's not always bad. I mean, Leo is is maybe the most generous sign of the zodiac. It wants to share the inspiration that it has within itself. And it loves to play, and it wants to express. So a lot of the time that can seem really self-centered, and sometimes it can be. There's shadow Leo, but it can be a really beautiful, self-expressive, creative, playful, joyful, fun energy. So what I love about Leo season is the heat really picks up, and there can be a lot of inspiration and creative energy. There can be a lot of sex, a lot of fun, playful romance and flirtation, just joy. And we're going to have the sun through Leo season and Mercury kind of making a high five from Jupiter. So Jupiter brings grace and blessings. So we have one of the most powerful planets in the sky, like sending good beams over. It's just a lot of fire, a lot of happy, blessed fire. The thing with Leo season is Leo is a fixed sign. So, like I keep saying throughout this forecast, any planets moving through a fixed sign are going to face chafing from a malefic at this point in time. Planets moving through Leo will have to square off with stinging Mars. So there could be some conflict at that point, and we'll go over those dates. And then also face an opposition from Saturn, which is usually like some sort of reality check, or like you want to move forward and Saturn's like, no. So again, a mixed bag. Just enjoy the fire energy, work with it as you can. If you come up against any limitations, any boundaries, just like breathe and trust the divine and trust yourself to work through those. Often Saturn is a lot about time. So if something doesn't want to move forward right now, that's okay. You can still, maybe you just need some elbow grease, or maybe it just needs more planning or a little bit more time to mature. So those are also, but this energy does kind of get more tense as we go into Leo season. We're starting to have a little bit more of this chafing in the sky with a little bit more passion fueling it. So like there could also still be some, forward movement. And also Uranus is in the mix, which means there could be like uncomfortable surprises. So that's just Leo season in general as we're looking. So Leo season begins, it's hot, it's strong, it's heart, it's creative, it's expressive, it's shining, and it's very solar. So it's very outward energy. Whereas through the earlier part of the month, we had all this Cancer energy, which was much more like receptive and sensitive and sensing and inward. Once we have these planets go into Leo and we've got like Jupiter and Aries, things can be much more external and much more outward. Okay, July 23rd, we have the, I believe this is the heliacal rising of Mercury. So Mercury comes out from underneath the sun's beams. So there could be even more outward expression, and Mercury communications, creative communications, passionate, playful, romantic, generous, heart-centered communications could be less hindered or just come out more full at this point. That's after Saturday, July 23rd. And also Mercury is trining Jupiter. So that's getting extra blessings for creative, playful, romantic, fun communications, just grace, lubrication, all of the things, amplification. So the 23rd, we have some really nice activations that you can have a lot of fun on this day. 24th, Sunday, and the moon is in Gemini at this point too, which is really nice and connected. So throughout the weekend of the 23rd, 24th, we may have a lot of fun. We're having the moon in Gemini, which is bipping and bopping everywhere. It's very social. It wants to connect with all these different people. It wants to do a whole bunch of different stuff. And it's making nice connections to everything pretty well. It's very comfortable. So that could be actually a great weekend, the weekend of Saturday, the 23rd and the 24th. Mercury is basically the moon in Gemini is sextile the Leo planets, which is good. It's sextile Jupiter in Aries, which is good. And it's out of the way of Mars and out of the way of Saturn. It's like trine Saturn. So really nice weekend. Love that weekend. The moon enters Cancer, which is the sign of her power and her domicile. It's her home sign. She's going to conjoin Venus. So there's a lot of like beautiful energy here as well. She's also largely out of the way of malefics in the beginning part of this, like Monday, but it is a dark moon because we're approaching the new moon in Leo, which will happen in a little bit. So the moon is getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and she doesn't have very much light. So the energy can kind of dramatically alter at the beginning of this last week of the month, after like sort of a very outward, maybe more social weekend. We may be going a lot more inward and feeling more sensitive on Monday, the 25th. Mercury square Mars. Mercury squares Mars on Tuesday, July 26th. So Mercury in Leo may have some very passionate, self-expressive words, and it's in a square with Mars and Taurus. So it's a very fast transit, but there could be like more potential for conflict in communications or putting your foot in your mouth or saying the wrong thing. So just watch for this period. Just be mindfulness around communications and not being domineering either. Being like really respectful in communications and not taking care not to be overblown. And like Monday and Tuesday, like I said, more inward, more sensitive. The moon is in Cancer, conjoining Venus. It's nice, but there's just not a lot of energy. There is tension in the sky because of all the planets on the fixed axis, but it's just with the moon coming into that balsamic phase, being really, really low in light. She's releasing and getting ready to start a new cycle. If you can kind of take it easy, it's nice. On Wednesday, the 27th, late 11:35 p.m., the moon does enter Leo, but she's in her balsamic phase. So it's a dark moon, energy is lower. She's also going to be squaring Mars, squaring Uranus, squaring the South Node, and opposing Saturn. So it's not the easiest. The moon in Leo, this new moon in Leo, is tougher. It does have support. It's trine Jupiter. This new moon in Leo is around 5 degrees of Leo. Somebody will have a moon video out where they'll go all into just this moon. But so again, there's a lot of really powerful, passionate, self-expressive energy. And there's also reality checks, chafing, potential for conflict and unexpected growth, like growth through like getting out of your comfort zone. And there's volatility also potentially present. So a mixed bag still that we're dealing with. Blessings from Jupiter, chafing from all these more challenging planets on the fixed axis. So good time to be creative and also to just bring mindfulness and like respect to every type of communication and situation and curveball. Yeah, so the new moon is on July 28th at exactly 5 degrees Leo, and it says 1:55 p.m. And I can't remember if I put that as Pacific, but I think I did. Okay. July 28th, we also have Jupiter stationing retrograde in Aries. So that's kind of interesting too, because these planets here in Leo are exactly trine Jupiter, and Jupiter is amplifying all of this Leo energy. It's a lot of fire. It's feeding the fire, but it's also stationing. When a planet is stationing, it gets louder. It's like if you're changing directions, there's a period where it takes you have to slow down to a stop before you can change directions. And when you're stopped, you're bearing down with a lot more gravity on that one point in space. So that's 8 degrees of Aries. And yeah, it's a lot of extra energy coming towards 8 degrees of the fire signs, or 8 degrees of any of the signs, especially the cardinal signs or the fire signs. So it's a powerful new moon in Leo. You can still have a lot of forward movement, but you just want to tread with mindfulness and grace, whatever you're doing. And you can have a lot of nice expressive energy too. It's good for creativity. You can have, it's like Leo is a sign where you're supposed to be able to have a lot of fun. But again, there's, like I said, there's guardrails with maybe spikes on them. Here with some of these other planets here on the fixed signs, just kind of putting a little bit of a damper on the Leo party. There's booby traps, right? So actually damper is not, it's not like just a damper. It's like you have to kind of navigate some edges. Friday, the moon is still in Leo. It's, kind of having some of the same aspects that maybe intensify into Friday, because that's when we're getting later into the fixed degrees and really coming up against some of those malefic planets in an uncomfortable way. This new moon in Leo, also on the exact same day, the 28th, we have an exact square of Mercury in Leo at 18 Leo squaring Uranus at 18 Taurus. And Uranus and Mars are kind of conjunct at this point, or coming up to approaching a really intense conjunction, which I'll talk about in a minute. But this Mercury-Uranus square on this Leo new moon could be challenges in communication, easier to be misunderstood, to misunderstand somebody, to be overbearing in communication. It's really similar to the 26th, where I said we had the Mercury square Mars aspect. Very, very similar energy. The chances of having something unexpected or abrasive or surprising happen, or potentially explosive on the 28th are a little higher, because Uranus has that lightning bolt quality where things can just be totally out of the box, come out of left field, and be unexpected and challenge us in that way. So again, invoking wisdom, grace, taking the high road. At the same time, like 2 days later on the 30th, we're going to have Mercury opposing Saturn. So this is where we have all of these challenging malefic planets on the fixed axis, all kind of coming into within a few degrees of each other. So any planets moving through like the later degrees of Leo, between like 15 and 24 degrees Leo, are just getting like one after another. It's like square with Mars, square with Uranus, opposition with Saturn. It's like kind of all bleeding together. So there's a lot of potential for conflict in communications, abrasiveness, overbearingness, anger, maybe even power struggles and frustration with boundaries and things like that. So this is just a period. Yeah, and this is what any planet moving through Leo. So a lot of August astrology will also have, as the sun gets up to that degree, we're not going to be finished with this type of energy for a while. So this is the beginning of us learning how to integrate and navigate and like smooth down some of these rough edges in these different parts of our lives, however this arises for you. So again, this moon has some nice positive, passionate energy. Is supported by Jupiter, but also Mercury, the planet of communication, travel, trade, writing, speaking, and a lot involving technology. And thinking is in passionate Leo, and it's coming up against some barriers it doesn't like. So that's challenging. So, but we can get through it. We're going to get through it. So just knowing that and invoking your best qualities. Once we get into July 30th, so at 11:10 a.m., the moon enters Virgo, and this is Pacific time. The next couple days can be nice and productive as the moon is in that crescent moon phase of growth. So she's starting to gain light. She's going to sextile Venus in Cancer. So that's a supportive aspect. And she's also making a trine to some of the more challenging planets in Taurus. So that's Mars and Uranus, the North Node. So those are supportive aspects. So this moon in Virgo can be, quite productive. It's largely out of harm's way as well. So there's not as many planets picking on it. So it's like the end of July is kind of, there's some productive days. However, we have to really look at what's going on with some of the other planets, not just the moon. July is, especially July 31st here. So look at this. We're on July 30th. We've already been feeling this for a few days. Like these aspects are going to perfect on certain dates, but you're really feeling the couple days or even weeks leading up to it. Mars here in Taurus, which is moving forward, but is still frustrated because it's not able to like do everything it wants to do and be, the sort of like seamlessly slice through or just glide through everything. It's gotta, it's gotta like plow through some kind of really stodgy, staunchy, not moving energy. It cannot move forward with the ease and speed that it wants to in the sign of Taurus. It's coming up against Uranus, which is in such a light color here. It's tough to see. And we also have the Uranus conjoining the North Node. This is really explosive. Like, I don't know exactly, and volatile. I don't know exactly what this vibe is, but at the end of July, we're coming up on some, like, expect the unexpected. Uranus is the planet that brings unexpected change. It rules surprises. It's not officially a malefic planet. I like this planet myself. It doesn't play by the rules. It's on its side. So its rings go the opposite direction of the other planets. I like to think of it as a bit of a David Bowie wild card planet. It's certainly very futuristic, and we're not ready for it. It's like way ahead of the game. It's way out of the box. It's way into the future. And that's what its job is to bring us into the future, to break us out of old paradigms that we may be stuck in and we don't know how to free ourselves from those. And so Uranus comes in with a nice little lightning bolt and it goes zing and some shit falls apart. But we're like free, but it's usually just not the most comfortable ride, but it can be really thrilling. So whenever Uranus is activated by an intense aspect from another planet, you're looking at something unexpected. You cannot predict what it's going to be, but it can be very intense and very volatile and very destabilizing. It's a rebellious, revolutionary planetary energy that shakes things up and breaks us free from old stuff. So Uranus is being really activated toward the end of July. This could be just stuff we're seeing in the collective, but also if you have planets at around 18 degrees of any signs, but especially the fixed signs, you're really going to be feeling this. Uranus is on the North Node. The North Node is not a planet, but it is a point in space that is really powerful. And the more I watch it, the more I pay attention. Wherever the North Node is where we're being pushed toward to learn, to move toward that. So Uranus is in the sign of Taurus. The North Node is in the sign of Taurus. They're coming together. And we're meant to learn new things, to be going into new places in the sign of Taurus. Taurus has to do with Earth. So a lot of themes around Mother Earth, the environment, our food and agriculture, also material resources, money, the economy, finances, all of these things. And Uranus is shaking all of this up. So there could be like people unionizing around like farm workers or, things like this around money, like the markets. I don't know. I can't speak to any of this stuff. I really am not like a great, I don't follow all the news as well. I feel like I don't have the knowledge to really speak to those things, but just watch what's going on at this point in time. So there's already like a volatility and something really important that's bringing us into the future in a way that we're supposed to go. Like we need to be moving into the future. We need to be facing. The North Node is not easy because we're going into uncharted territory. Uranus is bringing us there in ways that we may not feel ready for. But Mars here conjoining Uranus, conjoining the North Node. This is like a triple conjunction here. It's so intense. So Mars is the planet of war. And of course, there are healthy, wonderful significations for Mars. Mars is leadership, it's courageousness, it's defense of the weak. It can be like all these good things, but usually when it's in a sign where it's frustrated and it's being harshly aspected from other planets, especially like not the benefics, like it's generally not great. Like the way the energy plays out can be quite challenging. So this is a period of time toward the end of the month where we really want to breathe and just recognize that whatever is unfolding is important growth, even if it is not comfortable, and we just have to roll with it the best we can. Expect the unexpected, and if there is conflict or chafing or anything difficult that happens, again, you're invoking grace, you're invoking love, and always taking the higher road. So yeah, this is very intense. I don't know exactly what this is going to be, but I'm expecting the unexpected around this time, and I'm expecting that it may not be the easiest, but that it may be really important, uncomfortable period of growth for us. Let's see, what else did I put here? We do have the Sun trine Jupiter at the same time. So again, we're not without support, but there's so much fire energy. Like, even though I was just talking about Uranus, Mars, the North Node being in this earth sign of Taurus that could have to do with, agriculture, environmental concerns, our food, money, which is very much about like our resources and our valuables, material possessions. There's a lot of fire energy in the sky. And so things could be really heated up. We could be more, it's good. Like Sun trine Jupiter is good, but yeah, it's just intense. So there could be a lot of passion and inspiration and motivation. Like some people might be really wanting to push forward on something and coming up against some really frustrating barriers. But still like not giving up, Sun trine Jupiter. Yeah, tension brews. I wrote super fucking tense. So this like North Node or Mars Uranus North Node conjunction has not even perfected. The 31st is more, the 30th, 31st, we have Uranus on the North Node. Yeah, like July 31st, August 1st is when we're really getting like the peak of this triple conjunction here. And it's nice that we have a Virgo moon, which kind of grounds us at this time. So yeah, we can, it's a mixed bag. We'll see. But where is Taurus in your chart? That's what you want to ask. And what do you want to do with this energy? There's crazy transformation happening in the Taurus part of all of our charts. And it's over a long period of time anyway, because Uranus is in there and it takes 7 to 8 years to kind of kick up dust and transform things. The North Node is there for, about 18 months. And now Mars is in there stirring things up for a few months. So where is Taurus in your chart? For me, it's in my money sector, in my second house of resources, earned income, finances, money. So you can look up, just Google, or like you can find out these things of where Taurus is in your chart, and you can see which area of your life is really undergoing some like radical, potentially surprising changes at this time that may push you out of your comfort zone. And if this is why I love astrology. This isn't like to foreshadow anything bad happening, but it's like, if you know that this is the weather, when something starts to pop, you don't feel so crazy. You're just like, oh yeah, this is the weather right now. Like, how do I work with this? In what ways can I bring grace to any conflict, bring grace to any challenges? How do I like Mars and Taurus is like elbow grease. Like it wants to move forward instead of just giving up, which isn't an option anyways, because you're going to continue, life's going to keep bringing you these lessons. What do you need to push through? But how can you push through with wisdom and grace and respect for others, right? So, and then what sort of future ideas do we need, or future realities, like do we need to embrace? What sort of restrictions may we be facing from an old paradigm that we still kind of unfortunately have to work? What parameters may we have to work within? But how can we like do what has to be done, but still think out of the box, and have a foot in both worlds as we navigate and shift, kind of like moving out of an old way of doing things into a new way of doing things. Sometimes you're a little bit of both or like it's, and so, yeah, we're learning how to navigate that growth, that change, that shift, and that evolution. So focus is on the Taurus part of the chart, I would say, for a lot of this month, actually, especially toward the end of the month, in terms of important growth to pay attention to. There are still grace and blessings unfolding the Aries part of your chart. It's a real mixed bag, but there's a lot of stuff moving forward this month. Through the fall, we're going to have a lot more backwards moving energy with just a bunch of retrogrades. So there's still progress happening right now. It's just not without some tension. But we got it, because that's how life is, and there's always grace and blessings. So where the juice and the grace and blessings are is in the Aries part of your chart, can really feed a lot of stuff. There's a lot of creative and inspired energy, a lot of heart-centered energy this month that can help us. We may be more prone to frustration, but also have the energy to work through it. So be creative, be innovative, think outside the box, and give yourself some space to pivot and allow for maybe the unexpected, especially around the end of the month, and roll with it, lean into it. Resisting it isn't going to work. So saying, okay, this is like a whole new thing that's unfolding now. How do I work with it? What are some of the best ways I can work with it to sustain me long term? And it's not a quick fix, but we can begin a process, and we can begin to trust the process. So yeah, that's what I got this month. Just remembering that anything I say, you can feel free to discard and to trust your own heart above all else. All my love, blessings for July.